I'm going to burst a very big bubble today for everyone, and excuse me for being blunt and pissing on the parade that you've likely been preached at property seminars for years and years, but in 2019, buy-to-let property is dead.
The buy-to-let we used to know as a way of getting wealthy by default, by large, is dead. What I mean is that if you track back and you go back to the 80s in the UK or even the 90s in the UK, real estate prices were going up 5, 6, 7x in 10 years. You could just buy a property anywhere in the UK, get a rental yield, and by default, a property that you bought for, let's say, £50,000 was going to be worth £250,000 in 10 years. So if you bought 4 of those properties, 5 of those properties, 6 of those properties, you were going to be a millionaire by doing nothing. That model of buy-to-let is dead. You can still make a yield if you're buying a good investment property, and I still recommend that. Buy a good rental yield investment property and it will do you magic. You know what your numbers are, you know what your yield return is, that's great. But in the way of just buying a property in any location is not going to work. The average property price in the UK today is, I believe, around about £230,000. Now, for that to go up even 4x or 3x in the next 10 years, let's talk about 3x in the next 10 years, we're talking about property prices becoming 750 grand. Is that going to happen? No, it's not. It's not going to happen. Because if we look at the 90s, initially people used to pay for properties over 2 or 3 years of their earnings. What happened after that is mortgages came in, and they were 10-year and 15-year mortgages. People's affordability was stretched out to that amount of time, and they weren't widely available to everyone. Then as we got later on into the 2000s and we had the credit crunch, before that, what happened is that mortgages became widespread, anybody and everybody could get a mortgage, and the affordability was stretched out for 35 years. So now people are paying for a property over their entire life. That is where the real big booms in property prices came from. Now tell me, in today's day and age, people are paying properties over 35 years. That's what their affordability is. It started from people paying it over 2 or 3 years. Now it's over their whole lifetime, whole working life. Real wages are stagnant, they're not increasing by large. The economy, GDP growth over the last decade has marginally been in front of inflation. So where are these property prices going to increase from? How are they going to increase? How are they going to make people millionaires in the next 10 years? They're not. If you're buying for yield, great, good strategy, as long as you know your numbers, what you're renting out for, how much you're making, what your mortgage is, what your costs are, great, make that investment. But if you're relying on property, just buying a random buy-to-let property in a town in the UK, and you think that's going to make you rich, that's going to go up in capital growth exponentially, it's not going to happen. There is capital growth still in the UK, don't get me wrong, but it's in pockets. It's not just buy anywhere, anytime. London has become a global hub. London is definitely going to be a place where over the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years, we will see massive capital growth. It is a global city. The demand for London is not coming just from the UK. It's not just dependent on UK wages, UK mortgages. It is the world's most wealthiest people pouring their money into London. Again, look at certain other towns and cities. You've got Birmingham, Manchester. You've got pockets and areas within small towns all across the UK where you've got a new investment going on. There's new infrastructure the government's developing. There's big shopping centres coming in. In those micro areas, there will be capital growth. But the strategy of just buy a random buy-to-let property on any old road in the UK and in 10 years you're going to be a millionaire by buying 5, 6 of them, that strategy is dead. So by default, becoming a property millionaire is dead. You've got to be more intelligent now. You've got to think about your decision making, and you've got to choose the right properties.